We knew it's been raining and it was going to continue to raining, but if I move the camera around, you can see down towards the end of the campground area, the creek overflowed and then it started rising up to where they had to evacuate some of the campers, and then eventually they brought in helicopters.
Aloha and welcome to Life Journaling and Dash.
And Diaries.
We're your hosts, David
and Uvelma.
And after living all over the world
and being married for over 30 years,
we decided to share our journey
and the adventures.
Our hope is to encourage others.
On the coast of Oregon, and it's another day of adventure. You can see the rain coming down, but there's been extensive flooding here. We move over to the area that last night when we came here, we were able to select the place where we wanted to be. And so we checked and we said, hey, we want to be closest to what they would say is the clubhouse and the pool area. You can see it in the background. And so we took this spot. We knew it's been raining and it was going to continue to raining, but if I move the camera around, you can see down towards the end of the campground area, the creek overflowed and then it started rising up to where they had to evacuate some of the campers, and then eventually they brought in helicopters and brought out people that were in the low ground, because now behind me, you can see this area back over here. There's a bridge, and the bridge is fine, but on the other side, the road drops down before it goes back up where the gate is. And that is completely flooded, because next to it, you can see on a map, there's a creek that runs along that, dumps out into the ocean. Well, that's overflowed, and it's flooded half the campground back that way to where there are campers underwater, and not people, but vehicles and stuff like that. We're fine. If you look at our area where we're situated, we are by the pool. Uvella wanted to do swimming, so we parked by the pool, and then you can see all the grass here. So we're actually in higher ground. We always pray that God would guide us and protect us. And last night he did that. The flooding started last night, and it's supposed to go down in the next 2 hours. It's going to drop down for low tide, but then that tide is going to rush back in and it's going to come back up. And again, you can see where the last campers are down there. That's where all the campers, they pulled out or they are still parked in the water down there. It's pretty deep. In the background now, you can see it's all dry, and you can see where the cabin is for the community center or the club lounge. But that area and our RV, which is just on the other side of these trees over here, were probably the highest ground on the campground. And so they started to take people out, ferrying them from the campground to safety, because the creek became a river, became a flooded river. Now we thought we'd be okay, because you see where right over there is our RV named Dash, and then right behind me is the evacuation sign for tsunami. So we knew that if we had to evacuate to go up the hill, everybody would run past us. But it was amazing to see the flooding of more than half the RV park. It was amazing to see the campers that just didn't make it out. They called us at one point and they said, "We want to let you know, Mr. Knight, we're going to be cutting the power possibly." And they did. They started cutting the power to the park incrementally. starting with the flooded cabins in the lower RVs and travel trailers, and then making their way up towards us. But we never did lose power. We did see a golden retriever and its parents, and they were outside because their camper was down in the flooded region. And so we invited them in. That included Bob, Darla, and their dog named Heidi. It was a golden retriever. And interesting enough, it looked a lot like Hana. Now, for those of you that know, Hana and Ollie were brought back from Japan. They're a little bit shorter. They are purebred, but they were brought back with us when we were serving overseas with the military. And they're a little bit shorter than American purebred golden retrievers. And Heidi was a little bit shorter. And so when we asked them about this, they said that it was a rescue dog from China. And it was missing a part of its paw. But they have friends that do rescuing of dogs, and that's how they got their Chinese purebred golden retriever. So we gave them coffee and breakfast and talked a lot about God. When they heard I was a pastor, they had questions, and it was great to visit with them. Later on, we got to see the beach. We did a little bit of exploring. Hana and Ollie just love the waves. They have a great time running up and down the ocean and sitting in the water. They love that. We saw some more bunny rabbits back at the camp when the rain let up a little bit. The bunnies here, I have to tell you, they are more than aggressive. Domesticated, I don't know that I would call them that, but they will let you get very close. And there's more than 50 of them here on the campground. With all the rain that was coming down, one of the other things that I managed to do and take time doing was I started digitizing some of our old home videos. And this was a project I put off for a long time when we were serving overseas, but later, when we came back to America or the mainland, I started collecting the VHS tapes I have and the other tapes, and I started the process of digitizing them, turning them from VHS. And the quality's not so good because we've had these for some of them 30 years or more. But just the memories that are included in these videos. So my suggestion to everybody is take pictures, and it kind of documented things. Like my grandmother, I knew that she was 100 years or close to 100 years. I knew it was something like that, but I didn't know exactly. And in an interview I shot with her more than 30 years ago, I put on the front of it, said, this is an interview with my grandma Dorothy and Grandpa Louie. Now, he doesn't talk too much in the video, and he is from my mother's side. Grandma Dorothy's from my father's side. And she was born in 1902 and passed away in 2002. And so, number one, she talked about God. She went to Bible studies and church and things like that. But number two, she documented some of these things that happened in her life. And we have those. And it brought back not just things that she experienced, but as a child, I remember visiting with her. I remember visiting in San Diego and going to these different places. And it brought back a flood of memories. And that was a great way to start recording and digitizing some of our home movies. We have a lot of them. Well, that's it from Neskowin Creek RV Resort. This is part one of a 3-part series because we were here for 3 weeks. And I have to tell you, the adventure continues.